Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome after a 4-week absence back to the resumption of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and once again joining me in the virtual commentary box at Snetterton 300 is the very, very well-versed Mr. Phil Kinch. Good evening, Phil. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Alex. How are you doing?
Pretty good. It feels like an eternity since we were last talking about some touring cars out on circuit, but we're now at Snetterton 300, 2.969 miles, 4.779 kilometres, 12 turns in all, and the first British touring car race that actually happened at this very circuit was back in 1959. That's quite a long time ago when you think about it, isn't it?
It is quite some time ago, but again, the early days. Who knew back then what would suddenly turn out to be, well, to begin with, the British Saloon Car Championship, and then later on become the British Touring Car Championship. So, yes, a very long time, but we've been wowed by some fantastic racing through the years, and also some slightly different looks to the Snetterton circuit from what it is today as well.
Yes, very, very much the case, and it looks like there seems to be a little bit of rain in the air this very, very evening, which could spice up the next three 12-lap races here at the fantastic Snetterton 300 circuit. The qualifying and race lap records in the BTCC are actually held from last year. Tom Ingram in the Toyota Corolla last year was best in qualifying with an average speed of 93.15 miles an hour with a 1 minute 54.737 second lap time. And then Dan Camish from Honda Yuasa Racing did the race lap record with an average speed of 92.39 miles an hour. And that was with 1 minute 55.682. On the board. So this is going to be very, very interesting. We're now into the second half of the season, Phil. I know that the drivers are very much getting their warm-up ahead of the first 12-lap encounter here, but just what about it? I mean, Snetterton has always been the provider of fantastic action, no matter which category takes to the tarmac here.
It's personally myself, I think it's because of the fast-flowing nature as the circuit used to be to what it is now. But even with the infield section having been added in the last few years, that's only added to the challenge of what Snetterton is. It's fast in some respects, it's tight, it allows for close racing, but the infield section, you've also got a technical area now to deal with as well, which challenges the driver even more, and that seems to add to the fun and frolics, I think is the best way to put it, that we see with touring car racing at Snetterton.
That very much could be the case this evening, but let's have a look at the standings. Chris Butcher from Smile Power Racing leads the way on 204 points, 23 ahead of SRR Motorsport Sam Fowler, with Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport rounding out the top three on 168. Just 2 points behind his teammate Matt Richards in the 4, and then Lewis McGlade in the 78 rounds out the top 5 positions. Kieran Shanks in the leading Subaru Levorg is in 6th ahead of Mike Bell, Max Tad, Ben Willis and Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing rounding out the top 10 positions on 83 points in the standings. I also understand, Phil, there's been a couple of changes. We've had a team withdraw, and we've also had a substitution for this particular race evening as well, haven't we?
That's correct, yep. So since during the 4-week break, we've had a slight change. So in the Rage Racing team in the MGs, we've had Graham Slattery come on board. Daniel's father has come to join in the fun, and unfortunately Cam Sport Mercedes have withdrawn for the rest of the season, as I understand it. So the only Mercedes left in the championships now until the end of the year is the Kings Mercedes, or Kings Racing Mercedes of Scott Mitchell and Jack Nichols. So again, more focus, I think, on them as them being the sole Mercedes in the field versus the various Fords and Astras. And just to point out, you mentioned Dan Kell, who, let's put the teeth in gear and give this a try, because I've been practicing for the last 4 weeks. Sancho Simsport. There you go. There we go. Thank you very much. 8 hours a day.
Round of applause for that, man.
Thank you. Yep.
Speaking of Sancho Simsport,
there you go.
yeah, there you go. They are leading the standings in the team's championship at the moment on 341 points. Just 7 ahead of Smile Power Racing in second. SRR Motorsport ran out the top 3 on 286. Then it's a big jump down to Frammy Autosport, which will have Kieran Shanks and Tom Edmonds on their books. As we're fast approaching the start of our first 12-lap race here at Snetterton. It's been an interesting one so far, Phil, but now that we get into the second half of the season, this is where things can change and can provide a dramatic change altogether, can't they?
Indeed, every overtaking manoeuvre, every point scored becomes much more important than it did before the summer break for the first half of the season. And now it's everyone out for themselves, trying to get every single point, take every advantage they can, and score those points, because in the run up to the end of the season, it is going to be the most, championships are decided by points, half a point. It can be so difficult. So everyone needs to really be on their game now and hit the ground running, especially from today onwards.
Right, formation lap underway, and as a result of the amended qualification order, as multiple 15-place grid penalties were applied, Scott Mitchell from Kings Racing will have Dan Kell alongside from Sancho Simsport. Then it's Chris Butcher and Scott Sovic who returns for Smile Power Racing on row number 2. Jack Nichols rounds out the top 5, so 2 Mercedes along with the Focus and 2 Astras. We'll have Mike Bell alongside in the Smile Power Racing Astra. Costas Avram, Tom Edmonds, Daniel Slattery and Matt Richards will complete the top 10 positions. And then just behind that, as I was just looking at the list there, and all of a sudden it went to Kieran Shanks and Phil Morby. So it's 2 Subarus on row 6. Ben Willis and Graham Slattery will be on row 7. Aidan Millwood and Bradley Brockies will round out the top 8 rows ahead of E-Team Brits, Max Spooner and Sandro Ballesteros. Bradley Brockies in the 105 is the highest qualifier out of that. Toby Davis all the way down in 21st position ahead of Max Tad, and Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport will be starting from the pit lane. Looks like it's a dry and sunny evening, or sunny day here at Snetterton, with 21 degrees Celsius here at Snetterton 300. 3 12-lap races here. And I've just been told by our broadcast director from Simply Race, Mike Yao, that the track is damp, Phil. So there might be those that might have decided if I'm on options, I'm going to risk it. If not, I think they're going to be on wet tyres, aren't they?
It is purely and simply driver choice now. It's what they feel is going to work out best for them. Those on dry tyres take the risk of not having much grip to begin with and falling back. Those on wet tyres, if they're on them, again, have the advantage of a good start to begin with, but those tyres will wear out if there's not enough moisture on the circuit. So it is truly now a case of what the guys have chosen, what they feel is best out there, and then running with that for the 12 laps. If you've got the right tyre choice, this is going to work out well. If you've gone with the wrong tyres, this is going to be a very, very long 12 laps.
Yeah, well, it looks like the Scott Mitchell, who's starting on pole position, is on the option tyre, indicated by the purple banding on the outer sidewall of the tyres, as the drivers now get themselves ready, get themselves steeled for 12 laps of action here around the 2.969 mile, 4.779 kilometre circuit at Snetterton 300 in Norfolk, as we wait for, now it looks like one of the other MGs has gone down into the pit lane. So, ladies and gentlemen, first race of the evening. We wait until the green flag gets waved, and that gives the signal for the drivers to put the pedal to the metal here. So wait for it. Mitchell on pole. And let's just see what happens as we get ourselves geared up, ready to go racing. You can just see a couple of the Smile Power Racing cars actually looking a little bit towards the outside, as the green flag, I think, has just waved, or is it about to wave? It has waved. We're off and away. Now the run down to the start, the run down to turn 1, which will be Rich's, gets underway. Scott Mitchell looks to get a really good start as it's 3 abreast towards the end of the field. Oh, nice move by Dan Kell. Oh, one of the Rage Racing cars going sideways through the exit of Rich's as they all filter their way across, and there is one car off the track. Yellow's in sector 1 already. But now Jack Nichols looks to have got up into 4th place ahead of Tom Edmonds. But now Scott Mitchell continuing to lead and has got a little bit of a getaway from Dan Kell. Chris Butcher now going up the inside of the 89. Jack Nichols, oh my goodness, Jack Nichols really sensing an opportunity. He is on the option. He's on the prime tyre, and he's going to make it too wide coming into the infield, or nearly 3 wide coming into the infield. But it is Kell and Butcher still mano a mano as they filter their way through the circuit. And it's Focus versus Astra with the Mercedes just behind. Oh my goodness me! A little bit of a drift wide there by Kell, and Butcher was the outside the pair, nearly clash. Oh my goodness me! Butcher still keeps hanging on, but Scott Mitchell starting to run away with it here for Kings Racing. Kell back up the inside of Butcher. Nichols closely following behind. Scott Sovic returning this round here as Nichols goes 2 wheels off the grass as they now head their way down the Bentley Straight down towards Brundle, Nelson and Bombhole. And wow, already Scott Mitchell has got a 3.3 second lead as we haven't even completed lap number 1. As now Scott Sovic around the outside of Nichols. Can you believe that? Going through into Nelson's. And that's one of the Frammy Autosport cars. That's Tom Edmonds that's now been hung out to dry. And I know that Phil hasn't been able to get a word in edgeways as Kieran Shanks now trying to go up the inside of Jack Nichols and nearly pushes the Mercedes sideways. Oh my goodness, through Coram into the left at Murray's. But now Scott Mitchell leading by a clear Norfolk Country mile here at Snetterton after lap number 1.
It's just exactly what you want to see. Mitchell's got the right idea. He needs to go and escape and make a gap whilst he can get away with it on the option tyre, because it depends if he can make that last for the whole 12 laps. So the bigger gap he's got to work with, the harder the others have got to try and track him down. But it's almost like the first day back at school as far as I'm concerned in touring car terms, with everyone going hell for leather and pushing each other hard. It's great to see Nichols having made the start he did, although he's dropped back a couple of places now. He's behind Kieran Shanks, who once again, the dark horse of the series, he's just making his way slowly forwards in that rear-wheel drive Subaru. It'll be good to see how much progress he can make. But as I said, Mitchell's got the right idea. He's escaping away, so a 3.5 second lead over Dan Kell, with Chris Butcher not far behind him and Scott Sovic keeping in the hunt as well. It's great to see this pack hunting along as we go. In fact, Shanks makes his way up to 3rd now as they go through the infield, heading towards Hamilton and Oggies, which is where we saw Kell going for a position. In fact, Shanks is going for Kell. It looks as though, has he passed him? In fact, he has. Shanks has passed Sovic and stayed ahead of him as they come through Williams and then onto the Bentley Straight. And in the meantime, Dan Kell is starting to close Scott Mitchell ever so slightly. The gap is dropping. It's just under 3.5 seconds. So I'm not entirely sure he's going to get away with this just yet, Alex.
Well, actually, Scott Mitchell has just put a fastest lap in for Sector 2, and then Dan Kell has responded by going 7 1,000ths quicker in the same sector. Kieran Shanks, the fastest of anybody in Sector 1 with the 31.466 in the Subaru Levorg, but Scott Mitchell has got the fastest lap out of anybody, a 1 minute 59.966. He's actually powering away from Dan Kell at the moment. The gap is now nearly 3.6 seconds. Shanks nearly a further 2 seconds adrift. Sovic, Richards, Butcher, Bell, Nichols, Avram, and Max Tad. Let's see if the Max Tad headlight show starts rearing its ugly head like it did 4 weeks ago in the earlier part of the season. And here we are on board with Max Tad right on the back bumper of the MG6 GT, reaching 120 miles an hour on the approach into Riches. Jack Nichols just up ahead. Now let's see how hard he brakes in. He brakes from around 137 miles an hour going into the right-hand sweeper. Oh, the pair have a little bit of a tussle, and there is Sam Fowler not too far behind the SRR driver of Max Tad, who slips neatly up the inside of Montreal, gets a bit tail happy, runs a little bit wide out of the corner. That allows Sam Fowler to try and claw his way past Kostas Avram there, and manages to get the move done through Palmer's as they make their way through into Agostini. But yeah, I think you're right here, Phil, because not just Kell that's running quicker than Mitchell, but Shanks is also running quicker, and he's just gone faster than anybody in Sector 1 at 31.235. And he's about 6 or so tenths of a second off of Dan Kell for second place at the minute.
And it's not surprising Shanks is putting in the fastest sector in Sector 1. That's quite a fast sector, but also tight and twisty, with the Wilson hairpin and then Palmer's following afterwards. So 2 heavy braking zones to contend with. And in the meantime, as we can see, Shanks has caught up with Kell now. So he is on the march. As I was saying earlier, Shanks being the dark horse, making that Subaru work, and we know he can make the tyres work on it as well, as he goes inside on the inside at Brundles, and he's up into second place by the time they come through to Nelson's on the way to the bomb hole. So if I was Scott Mitchell, I'd be starting to either get my foot down that a little bit more if I could, or starting to keep an eye on the rear view mirror and keeping an eye out for that black Subaru as it makes its way up the leaderboard again. Impressive stuff from Scott Mitchell, but it looks as though Max Tad has closed on Jack Nicholls, and I can confirm, Alex, whilst you saw the move earlier on Costa Sanfram, yes, the headlights are on. The Max Tad show is in full effect, and he is already chasing Nicholls and pushing him hard for 8th place on the start-finish straight.
Well, Jack Nicholls actually, if memory serves me correctly, Jack Nicholls actually has decided to go for the option tyre for the final race here at Snetterton, as Tad trying to go up the inside. Oh, the headlights ablaze, and they bump door panels going through Riches. And you can just look at the amount of vibration on the camera coming out of the corner. Absolutely epic when you see two cars going side by side. However, Nicholls is not letting Fowler get past. Nicholls very, very wily in his own right. Obviously, just recently back from the Formula E Season 6 finale in Berlin. Was the King's Racing driver in the number 29. He actually took his sim rig over to Berlin to compete in GPVWC last week as well. So that just shows you how much commitment Jack Nicholls has as both a commentator, but then also as a sim racing driver in his own right.
Exactly, and if you saw the pictures that he posted on social media of his sim rig setup whilst he was in Berlin, that's all the more impressive to add to it. Mm-hmm. So, in the meantime, we can see Lewis McGlade is up ahead of Tom Edmonds as they squabble over 14th place. McGlade now into 14th place as he goes through Williams and starts to head on the Bentley Straight, whereas just up ahead of that, you've got Aidan Millward chasing down Costas Avram as well.
Who's got past?
Who's now got past?
Yeah, who's now got past? As you literally said, Aidan Millward, he went past as Max Tad has got past Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing. Oh,
Scott Nicholls going wide.
Scott Nicholls?
No, sorry, it's not Jack Nicholls going wide. There you go. First slip of the night.
First slip of the night. Next thing you know, it'll be Sancho Simsport again. You might have to put your... hey, Phil, did you manage to secure your false teeth before we went on?
I did. Sancho Simsport has been well practiced in the summer break.
Now you got to remember Jack Nicholls, not Scott Nicholls.
Jack Nicholls next.
Or no Jack Mitchell. Right, Graham Slattery actually, unfortunately, is a DNF early doors. So at the moment, we have Scott Mitchell still leading. Last lap from him was a 1 minute 53.175. Kieran Shanks took over 1.1 seconds out of that lap. With a 1 minute 52.040, and also holds the fastest lap of 1 minute 51.894. Dan Kell, Matt Richards makes it a Sancho Simsport 3-4, followed by two Smile Power Racing cars in the form of Scott Sovic and Chris Butcher. Max Tad and Mike Bell round out the top 8 ahead of Sam Fowler and Jack Nicholls from SRR and Kings Racing respectively. Toby Davis now up in the number 34 Davis Racing Astra into 11th ahead of Aidan Millward, Costas Avram, Lewis McGlade, Tom Edmonds as Mike Bell gets, well, actually, that was Mike Bell that's just been passed, I believe, by Sam Fowler there for position. So he's up into 8th place as Sam Fowler. Then it's Aidan Millward, Costas Avram, Lewis McGlade, Tom Edmonds, Daniel Slattery, Ben Willis, Phil Morby, Max Spooner being the leading E-Team Brit driver at the moment in 19th ahead of Bradley Brockies, Daniel Hyde from Canan Casual at Apex in 21st, and Sandro Ballesteros running out the 22 that are still running. We're now on to our 5th lap out of 12 here. And look at the gap between Scott Mitchell and Kieran Shanks, the Frammy Auto Sports 16 Subaru Levorg. You said it was a dark horse. It is the Devil Child car here in the VMO TCUK Championship, is this Subaru Levorg. He's had multiple wins this season, and he's looking set. But, I mean, if I'm honest with you, as long as Scott Mitchell hasn't overcooked the option tyres, he could have a possibility. Well, we've got yellow in Sector 3 very, very briefly there. But if he just keeps them, you know, he tried to get the getaway. He did, but then it depends on how quickly you go through these corners. You can see how hard he's pushing that Mercedes to keep ahead of Kieran Shanks.
Indeed. I mean, Scott Mitchell's last lap as Shanks takes the lead at the Wilson hairpin. Mitchell's taking the wide line and the safer line, so he's in second place now as Shanks starts to build a cushion. Shanks had the fastest lap last time round at a 1:51.695 compared to Scott Mitchell's 1:53.283. So either Mitchell's taken out too much of the tyres already with half the race left to go, or he is now just playing it safe and allowing Shanks to just go on and build that gap up to take a win. And it would be great to see Mitchell taking a podium in the Kings Racing Mercedes, because both drivers, both he and Jack Nicholls, have been trying really hard towards the end of the first half of the season. And there were a lot of undeserving drives going their way when they should have had better luck. So let's hope Mitchell can stay in the hunt. In the meantime, we've got what seems to be a BMW Vauxhall sandwich going on here, with, where are we? We've got Max Tad ahead of Scott Sovic, and then Fowler, Butcher and Bell all following behind. And these guys don't seem to be breaking away from each other too much. They're keeping each other close company as we come up towards the Brundle-Nelson complex and heading towards the bomb hole itself. Again, Snetterton, it's not one of those tracks that favours rear-wheel drive against front-wheel drive. It's pretty even, considering the first section you could say could work out better for rear-wheel drive with the hairpin corner and the drive out of Palmer's. But with the long straights and the fast corners, they benefit the front-wheel drives better. As we can see, Aidan Millward now catching up to
well, he wasn't. He's actually losing ground because Jack Nicholls went round the outside of him through Nelson's. Of all places. That was a good move there by Jack Nicholls. But yeah, I think at least I'm so glad that there's no sort of triple-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich like we had 4 weeks ago. I thought I had to quickly remind you of that one, because I think that was definitely the saying the funniest saying I think I've ever heard on sim racing.
That was good fun. It was
that
good
was
fun
brilliant
last time.
fun. You, myself, and Mike Yao, our broadcast director. Big thank you to Simply Race for helping to host this as well, providing you with all the great audio and visuals from myself and Phil, and obviously the cars out on circuit at the moment. As there is Scott Sovic being caught by Sam Fowler, as Max Tad looks to be a little bit further up the road, trying to close down on Matt Richards in the number 4 Sancho Simsport. Ford Focus is up the inside, goes Fowler on Sovic. Nice. Well, that was a little bit of Rubbings racing there, and that does happen as they go through into that was through Agostini, now into the right of the left-hander at Hamilton before the right at Oggies. And then they'll be going through the sort of like the double right-hander at Williams, as you can just see how quickly they get onto the power here at the Bentley Straight before going under the bridge before Brundle, Nelson, and then the bomb hole before the sweeper through Coram. And I've seen some pretty good overtakes through Coram in my time, not just in real life, but also in the sim racing world. As now you can just see there is a trio. It's like it's 3 little Smile Power Racing Astras all in a row.
There you go, three little bottles all on the wall. They're running to line astern with Scott Sovic ahead of Chris Butcher and Mike Bell. And it's, as we've spoken before, for a numbers game, this is working out for Smile Power Racing almost better than it is for Sancho Simsport. Matt Richards and Dan Kell running 3rd and 4th at the moment, but the Astras running line astern in 7th, 8th and 9th. So again, in the team's standings, as far as that's concerned, if it finishes this way, it's where points are scored and how they can capitalise. The BMWs themselves of Max Tad and Sam Fowler have managed to progress past the Astras, but it's taken them quite some time to do it. It's not been an easy job, although from the looks of things, Max Tad seems to be the faster of the 2 BMWs out of the pair.
Yeah, he's got the option tyres on at the moment, which is why he's the quicker out of the 2. Is Jack Nicholls now having a ding-dong battle with Aidan Millward from Option 13 Autosport, Option 13 Simsport, and just behind them is the now the 3rd of the Sancho Simsport Ford Focuses from Lewis McGlade, who recently has done a couple of races in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge. Over, I think it was at Adria and also at the recent penultimate round at Dubai, where Matt Richards actually secured the inaugural E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge championship with just a round remaining. So they have been racing another... little bit of a tussle there between Kostas Avram and Ben Willis from Drake Racing. But yeah, I think... there are some drivers that might be ruining their decision. I mean, Lewis McGlade is on the option tyre. Matt Richards is on the option tyre. So is Scott Sovic. So is Max Tad. Tom Edmonds is on the option tyre. Scott Mitchell's on it. Matthew Clipp, Phil Morby, and Aidan Millward. They're all on the option tyre. And I think there's only a few drivers. I mean, Sandro Ballesteros will opt to use it in the second race. Obviously, that's dependent on the changing conditions. Obviously, the track being a little bit greasy, but obviously the slick tyre still doing their job, as now Kieran Shanks has a whopping 4.1 second lead over Scott Mitchell at the moment. Matt Richards trying to close in on the Kings Racing Mercedes in second place, and he's about 2 seconds adrift at the moment. Dan Kell, Max Tad. So there you've got Sam Fowler and Max Tad line astern, with Tad just ahead in 5th place as the pair. And the Max Tad headlight show goes on a-blazing.
Oh yeah, we always like it when as soon as the headlights are on, we know he's playing serious and he's charging hard. But in this case, he's having to defend from his teammate Sam Fowler. It's not another driver from a different team, which we're used to Max being involved in and doing his best to try and work his way up the order. So he's having to defend from Sam. He's quite on as even, to be honest. Kieran Shantz leading the way with just over a 4-second gap in the rear-wheel drive Subaru, and you've got Scott Mitchell, you've Matt Richards, Dan Kell, front-wheel drive cars in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then obviously Max Tad and Sam Fowler adding to the rear-wheel drive side of things in 5th and 6th. I'd say it's on as even. They're doing what they can, and with a damp track, which often gets greasy as well, it's looking as though those that have gone for the safer tyre choice are having the better time.
Well, the thing is, Phil, notice anything about these two BMWs?
Apart from Max Tad going wide at Williams.
Apart from Max Tad going wide at Williams, look at the colour of the tyres on the sidewalk.
Yep.
They are not primes, they are not options. I have a feeling they've gone with wets.
I think so as well.
That's why they're looking pretty racy at the moment, and that's possibly why some drivers have decided, yeah, well, I'm going to go for... So I'm sure that our broadcast director will hopefully confirm to me that those two drivers are on wet tyres, because if they are, that has been an absolute masterstroke to keep themselves in the hunt for really, really good consistent finishes. But obviously Sam Fowler looks to have kept his tyres a little bit better on this particular occasion, because Max Tad went in like a bull in a china shop and was trying to get past everybody as quickly as possible, and then all of a sudden his teammate goes, "Hi Max, how you doing, mate?" and saunters on past.
Exactly. Up front, we're seeing that Matt Richards is now fighting with Scott Mitchell, and it looks as though Richards, he has. In fact, he's passed him in the Wilson hairpin and taken 2nd place off of the Mercedes driver. So with 2 laps left to go, Mitchell is now, I think, potentially suffering with the option tyre choice. It may have outlasted its usefulness, or either from him pushing too hard in the first few laps to build that 3.5-second gap we saw, or it is just a case of it may not have been the best tyre choices we've just seen with the 2 SSR BMWs. Either way, 1 Sancho Sim Sport, that's 3 times a CV, I'm counting, by the way, the podium position.
You know what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to put notches on your Tomahawk if you're going to keep on doing that.
That's it. That is. I'll have to dig it out and get started.
I'll get the chalk. I'll send a chalkboard and a little piece of chalk, just so you can notch it up and we'll hear it in the background.
Brilliant.
During the
That's
broadcast.
I'll get started with the 3 already. So yeah, Mitchell in 3rd place. In the meantime, you've got Tom Edmonds having a go at Toby Davis, and this looks as though it's for 10th position. In fact, Davis pushing Edmonds for 10th as it is. So now Davis again, I'm hoping he has a better time. He's another driver had some rotten luck in the last couple of rounds before the summer break, especially at Alton Park when he was looking quite racy and running in the top 5, and then we had the triple Subaru failure as it was at the time. But at the moment, Davis is very racy and looking as though he could potentially give Edmonds a really hard time. As in fact, doing that exactly as they go through Coram, and then coming into Murray's, which is potentially a bit overtaking spot, but he's not close enough and hasn't got the right line. If he can keep the Astra glued to the back of the Subaru, which he's doing perfectly, he should be getting a lovely slipstream as we come up the start-finish straight. A move on the inside possibly. Edmonds is preparing for it as they come into Riches. Davis goes on the outside. He's going to try the cutback, and he's had a big wiggle through the middle of Riches, so that's going to cost him some time, and he's lost a little bit of space to Edmonds as they come into the Wilson hairpin. Closes it back up under braking, and all the while Edmonds is closing up on the small power trio of Butcher, Bell and Sovic just ahead. So he's in the middle of an Astra sandwich. Meanwhile,
I think that's the second time you said the word sandwich. This
doing
evening.
well.
Yeah, you're doing very, very well. But we're on now effectively I think we're on the penultimate lap at the moment as Tom Edmonds has got the headlights ablaze. But I've just been looking down some of the drivers on the order. I mean, Daniel Slattery is on the prime tyre. Phil Morby couldn't really make out what he had, but yeah, Matt Richards actually was on the option tyre as well. So it's been a mixture of all three. When it gets damp, it effectively becomes a wet race. As there's Phil Morby, he's on the option tyre, trying to close down on Daniel Slattery. So I think the way that Kieran Shanks is just pushing, he's obviously made. Oh, Daniel Slattery has a turnaround there and clatters with the front nose into the side of Phil Morby. But luckily enough, Phil Morby in the Subaru Levorg does not have to worry about going around like a spinning top like we've seen him through the first half of the season, unfortunately. Right, here's a replay. This is Max Spooner going through Nelson's and into Brundle's. Oh, the BMW goes...
Back end goes round.
Oh, dearie me. I'm sure that Max Spooner was not wanting that one.
No. Now, what I'm keeping an eye on as we come to the end of the final lap is if Scott Mitchell can hold off Dan Kell. Kell's been closing down the Mercedes for the last podium position as we start this last lap, and we've got it here, so you can see he's very close. Now, again, Mitchell on the option tyres. We know that's probably not worked out too well for him, but he's managed to hold on so far. Keller's been closing him down, and again, if he can try, it's going to work either way. If Mitchell can stay ahead, it's a podium position and a well-deserved one, considering his start and the lead he built up earlier in the race. If Kell can move forward, that's two Sancho Sim Sports on the podium, and we'll see how we go. But at the moment, it is very, very tight. This is highly pressured stuff for Scott Mitchell, making sure, one, that he's keeping the car on the grey stuff in these damp, greasy conditions, and also trying to hold back the focus at the same time as well, nursing the tyres and what tyre life they have left as he goes a little bit wide at Williams and comes onto the Bentley straight. That's going to invite Kell a little. In fact, no, Kell's gone wide as he's come out of Williams and lost some ground, so that may just be the space that Scott Mitchell needs. Meanwhile, on the inset, we've got Jack Nicholls, Costa Sanvram and Ben Willis all fighting for 14th place. So if the fighting isn't done yet down the field, as Kieran Shanks comes through the bomb hole, heads into Coram, and it looks as though he's on his way to another win.
Yeah, the Frammy Autosport number 16. Subaru Levorg GT of Kieran Shanks, who made his appearance at round 2, now powers towards the finish line. This time around, he starts weaving, and this time, Kieran Shanks wins the opener here at Snetterton 300 by 2.2 seconds. Scott Mitchell brings it home for a maiden podium for Kings Racing. Oh, as Jack Nicholls rolls it going through the... Was that through?
Oh,
that was through Williams. Was that through Williams or Coram?
No, that was through Nelson and into the bomb hell.
Oh,
right at the end of the lap.
So joy, and excitement for Scott Mitchell, and excitement for Jack Nicholls that he didn't really want to go rolling down the hill. Well, rolling on the grass, not down the hill because there isn't one there outside that corner. But Kieran Shanks wins race 1. Matt Richards takes 2. Let's have a look at the replay here. So he's battling away with Costa Savram. And
it looks as though he's caught the inside of the curb.
Yeah,
he's caught the sausage curb.
Yeah, that's launched it off of Nelson's, and it goes skyward and then goes flippity flop over it. Sorry, that was the first thing.
Just like that. Flippity flop.
Like that. Sorry. Like that. No, sorry. We're going to start sounding like Tommy Cooper then.
No, we're not going down that road.
But your podium for race 1 out of 3 here after 12 laps. Kieran Shanks from Frammy Autosport in the number 16 wins by 2 seconds ahead of Matt Richards in the number 4 Sancho Simsport Ford Focus. Great to see Kings Racing make their they're actually on merit, I might add, podium thanks to Scott Mitchell in the 22, a further 3.7 seconds behind. Then it was Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport with Sam Fowler rounding out the top 5 for Sancho Simsport and SRR Motorsport respectively. Chris Butcher, who came into this round as the championship leader by 23 points, holds on to 6th ahead of his 2 Smile Power Racing teammates, Mike Bell and Scott Sovic. Tom Edmonds would recover to finish in 9th ahead of Max Tad. Then we'd have Toby Davis taking 11th ahead of Aidan Millward from Option 13 Simsport in the 67 BMW. Lewis McGlade, who started from the pit lane, in 13th ahead of Costa Savram. Ben Willis, Phil Morby, Jack Nicholls, Daniel Slattery, Sandro Ballesteros, Bradley Brockies, and Max Spooner rounding out the 21 that finished. Daniel Hyde, unfortunately, retired on lap number 6, so half distance, with Graham Slattery unfortunately not even making it past lap 1. I think I did see the MG ending up in the pits after the formation lap, but That was the first race. If anything's to go by on that one, Phil, the next two will really, really change things significantly.
Oh yes, the ante will definitely be up. I am a little bit curious, I must admit. Max Tad was running, I think, his 6th place towards the end of the race, but he's dropped down behind the 3 Astras come the end of the race. So I'm wondering if there's been a mistake there, because Sam Fowler, his teammate, did pass him, as we saw, but he's now finished behind the 3 Astras come the finish line. So I'm slightly curious to see if anything's happened there, if he's had an off-track excursion or lost out on the tyres maybe. However, yeah, that was a great first race, and I'll be honest now, I can't wait for the next one. I've missed this. It's been a very long 4 weeks. They've packed me away in a wardrobe and told me not to come out and anything, and then tonight they go, yes, you can come out and talk again. I'm like, yes, and the racing has just made up for it already. So I'm excited and happy.
I'm sorry. I think Phil has become the touring car co-commentator equivalent of a Duracell bunny.
Not just yet. Let's see how we get to race 3.
Well, as they say, you ain't seen nothing yet, and for me and Phil, you ain't heard nothing yet. So I just think that really it's so good to be working alongside you again, buddy. I mean, if I'm honest with you, as busy as I've been, it's been a true joy having you back in the virtual commentary box and being a track that we both really love. I mean, Snetterton's one of my home circuits. I mean, if people say, well, yeah, you can't really have 2 home circuits. Well, I'd rather give people a particular gesture, as in the victory side. Well, I will have 2 circuits, because Snetterton is an hour and 20 minutes for me, and Brands Hatch is an hour and a half. So I'm spoilt for choice, let's say.
I would agree with you. So I'll take 2 myself. I'll take Silverstone, which is literally half an hour down the road from me, and then I'll take Donington, which is about an hour up the road. So yeah, it's completely feasible and it's allowed, as far as I'm concerned. I'll dictate the rules, and like I said, we'll deal with anyone that argues.
Yes.
Snetterton
woe betide the boy that does not listen to Mr. Kinch.
Indeed. Indeed. Beware.
Beware.
You have been warned. Goldschmidt has spoken.
So, yeah, I mean, we're just waiting for, I think there's a warm-up happening at the moment. So we will be back in just a couple of moments' time as we continue our live broadcast of the 6th round of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship, being held here at Snetterton 300 circuit. Back in a couple of minutes. Well, you might have just seen an advert for the Simply Race British Championships, which get underway it's actually next Sunday, if memory serves me correctly, because I'll be there commentating on the action. Looking forward to being back in Milton Keynes. Obviously, you can head to simplyrace.co.uk for all the relevant championships, all the relevant offers, the great deals that they have week in, week out at Milton Keynes. But Phil, race one, that was a really, really good start, and to the evening's proceedings, and it's going to be really nice to see what the order is for race 2 very, very shortly.
It is. I mean, I'll be honest, they were actually quite well behaved, considering this is the first time they've been back racing in this series from the 4-week break. It's normally a case of when you tell touring car drivers they've got 4 weeks to go away and hide and do something, they almost sort of walk away as though they're ashamed, or a naughty schoolboy or girl as they've been told to go and get a detention. You can't race for another 4 weeks. Oh, okay then. So when they get the chance to go back racing, it's quite obvious, you know, they've been well behaved in that first race. The dust webs, the cobwebs, even the dust have been shaken off. They've had an idea of what the track conditions are like with that first race where it was quite damp and quite greasy, and tyre choice had a big effect already. So I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen that same effect happening in race 2 as they get used to the track conditions and as they either improve or worsen, if you want, over the course of the next couple of races.
Yes, indeed. So it's really quite interesting on how many people were actually on soft tyres as they've just completed the warm-up. And Scott Mitchell actually stated that the soft tyres that he was on was actually as low as 10% at one point, and just had to let people past.
Wow.
That's how close it was to the wire on those soft tyres. So even in damp, greasy conditions, and depending on how quickly and how hard you push, really does dictate how your strategy unfolds through a 12-lap encounter. And here at Snetterton, it is easy to pass when you have the correct amount of tyre temp, the correct amount of tyre temp, brake temp, and obviously the right setup, because you can battle with anybody until the cows come home. But if you haven't got the right setup, the car is not going to feel 100% level, it's not going to feel planted, it's not going to pick up when you need to, it might spoil up the rear tyres if it's a rear wheel drive, or the front tyres, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different mitigating factors that the drivers have to consider, especially with the drivers running in their respective teams, as it looks like we are about to get things underway for our second race. So let's have a look at the grid order for race 2 out of 3 here at the 6th round of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Snetterton 300, as they get themselves underway. So they have all shot off into the distance as we wait to see, as there is Scott Mitchell, who's apparently in the pit lane. So it's Kieran Shanks from Frammy Autosport and Matt Richards from Zancho Simsport on the front row. Scott Mitchell looks to be starting from the pit lane for some reason, but then that leaves a spot for Dan Kell and Sam Fowler to try and squabble over, as it does for Chris Butcher. Mike Bell and Scott Sovic round out the top 8, with Tom Edmonds and Max Tad from Frammy Autosport and SRR running out the top 10. Toby Davis and Aidan Millward will complete row number 6 on the grid. Following that will be Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport. A great effort from him in the number 78 to move all that way, halfway through the field effectively. Costas Avram in the FMP MG will be alongside, and then it will be Ben Willis and Phil Morby. Jack Nichols will start 17th, ahead of Daniel Slattery. Sandro Ballesteros and Bradley Brockies from E-Team Brit will round out the top 20 positions, the top 10 rows, ahead of Max Spooner, Daniel Hyde and Graham Slattery. So just waiting to see what will be happening very, very shortly, as they will start to make their way towards the grid as we speak to complete the formation lap here. 12 laps still to go, and in many respects, Phil, another 12 laps to take us through to what looks to be a grandstand finale. So it looks like Chris Butcher, is on the option tyre here for race 2.
So I suppose the question now is we saw how Scott Mitchell, and heard obviously how he struggled towards the end of the race and had to struggle with his tyre temp and just try and maintain what he had left. is this going to be the same case with Chris Butcher, for example, now as the cars come lining up to the grid? So is the option tyre, whilst it's quick to begin with and you're able to make places, build a gap, get that fast start, is that the right way to go? Is the medium tyre the better option to go, slightly longer, have that durability? And as you were saying before, if the guys are fighting any setup issues, that's just going to add to their woes as they're trying to make their way forwards. If you're fighting the car, you're not able to give the full performance that you expect. And as we can see, once again, Mike Bell pointing the car. Sorry, not Mike Bell, Scott Sovic pointing the car towards the left.
Chris,
I do like this.
Chris Butcher's doing it as well, because you can see the gap where Scott Mitchell is on as now. The green flag has been waved. We're off and away. Scott Mitchell will be starting from the pit lane, but it's a run down to turn number 1. Matt Richards on the inside of the Subaru of Kieran Shanks, and the Sancho Simsport driver gets up the inside to take the lead through the very first corner as they all filter their way through down towards Montreal for the first time. Shanks towards the outside of Richards this time around, and up the inside it looks like Fowler and Keller battling over third place, and looks like Fowler's lost out to the Ford Focus, goes down to 4th position. And in the meantime, they are not relenting. Tom Edmonds looks to be up into 7th position. Mike Bell now behind Chris Butcher, who's up to P5. And Butcher is the only, I think if memory serves me correctly, he is the only one of the 3 Smile Power Racing Astras that are on the option tyres, because the other 2 used them in the first race. So Butcher, if he's got the car underneath him, he's going to go absolutely hell for leather. And he's trying to close on Sam Fowler just up ahead.
Bush is the one to keep an eye on, but as we've seen before, we've got Matt Richards trying to hold off Kieran Shanks. Kieran Shanks has won races with Max Ballaston, as we saw at Thruxton earlier in the first half of the season. He knows how to control the weight and get the maximum out of that rear-wheel drive Subaru. So it'll be interesting to see if he can repeat himself and try and take 2 wins out of 2 races here. But at the moment, he's just got to be committed, get the best out of the car in the early laps, because he is right in the middle of a Sancho Simsport. So there you go. This completely gone wrong. Sancho Simsport sandwich. He's right in the middle.
Their way loose, haven't they?
They have. The teeth have worked loose already.
I've just seen that Jack Nichols has lost out to Bradley Brockies and Max Spooner, and is coming under fire from Sandro Ballesteros, who's about 9/10 of a second adrift. Running wide there. That was, I think that was
Max Tad.
Yeah, Max Tad. No, that was Sam Fowler. Sam Fowler ran wide, so Chris Butcher trying to go around the outside towards Riches, and as Shanks goes sideways, trying to keep Kell at bay, and Butcher and Fowler going side by side through Riches, heading towards Montreal. And this time around, Butcher to the outside, Fowler to the inside. Butcher trying to get the cut back, and goes two wheels grass hopping and curb hopping on the inside, and gets towards the inside run. This could help him, but not through Palmer's it doesn't, because Fowler still keeping ahead of the 65. Butcher is now, whilst these 2 are battling, this is actually compromising Butcher, because it's actually reducing the amount of life those option tyres are going to have. As we're only on to lap number 2 out of 12, and what it's also bringing is, as Butcher runs wide coming out of the corner, and that was coming out of Agostini's, there's now Max Tad getting very, very close, and he's also on the option tyre. So Max Tad looks to have decided, because they were on wets, they did the sensible thing, and they've gone onto the option tyres. Right, okay. Here is Jack Nichols, and he's behind 2 of the E-Team Brit cars.
Big wiggle through Corums coming into Murray's.
Oh, that was not
taking
what
a
he
lot
wanted.
Of curb again.
Oh, that was
That was a sausage curb.
Night Rider style. Oh, and it rolls.
Oh.
The Mercedes again for the second race in succession for Jack Nichols. Rolls. Oh, my goodness me. Jack Nichols having an absolute disaster here at Snetterton 300. And that has rolled. I think that's still rolling. And that lands on all 4 wheels. But Jack Nichols, oh, my goodness me. That is an instant DNF. That rolled 6 to 7 times. And that was definitely one rollover you were not going to come back from.
No, and it's a real shame, because Jack did really well to hang on to the positions he did in race 1. He started in the top 5 and unfortunately lost out, and managed to, he suffered that big roll at the end of race 1. So to have 2 in a row is just really, really poor luck. As we're seeing here up front, we've got Kieran Shanks chasing Matt Richards again. He's pushing him hard, but in the meantime, Max Tad, another one on the option tyre, the same as Chris Butcher, he's not able to make hay while the sun shines, unfortunately. He is stuck behind Mike Bell, who's on I can't quite see, I've just missed it actually. As they come into this next turn here, he's trying for the...
Mike Bell is on the prime tyre. Mike Bell is on the prime tyre.
On the prime tyre,
so is Scott Sovic, and Sovic's all the way down in 15th position. Ballesteros has just got past E-Team Bradley Brockies as Max Tad trying to force the issue now. Oh, he tags Mike Bell. Tags Mike Bell there, which sends the Astra into a bit of a tailspin. And here comes Lewis McGlade. And I think one of the things that will have done to Max Tad, who gets a little bit of a touch of his own. And that sends the BMW sideways. Oh, my goodness me, as they come, that was through Williams, coming through into the Bentley straight. But I think really the prime tyre seems to be working that little bit better here as Max Tad really coming out of fire, and he's gone sideways, going into Brundle, through into Nelson, then through into the bomb hole. Those option tyres are going off really, really quickly as Tom Edmonds also goes wide, coming out of the going through the bomb hole as they go through Coram. That BMW is absolutely cornering like it's going sideways on ice.
It is. It's not doing well at all, and it's allowing Lewis McGlade to make further progress. He made impressive progress in race 1 to start race 2 in 13th, and he's already up to 8th. So it's showing once again the Sancho Simsport focuses are really a weapon to have as we come to a replay here. And we've got Tom Edmonds. See again, he's caught the sausage curb the same as Jack Nicholls did in race 1, and that sent him wide coming through Nelson's. And it's a real shame. You can use the curbs as much as you want, but the sausage curbs, they're the ones that will absolutely fire you off. And unfortunately, Jack Nicholls has found that out in the worst way possible. And Tom Edmonds has found that out as we see Lewis McGlade once again trying to see if he can get past Max Tad. I mean, we're on to lap 4. Scott Mitchell's managed to make the option tyres last up until around about lap 6 or 7 in the first race. So I am wondering if the rear-wheel drive BMW has chewed up the options a little bit more than the front-wheel drive Mercedes will have done, and it is allowing the likes of McGlade and Davis to close up on him, as we can see the first 3 here now as they come out of Oggies and make their way through to Williams and onto the Bentley straight. Shanks is pushing again. He's max ballast on board from his race 1 win. Let's not forget that the Subaru is heavy with weight, and he is pushing Matt Richards for the lead, but he's also bringing along Dan Kell, so he can't relax just yet. He's got 2 of the focuses to deal with as they come through Brundle and into Nelson's, whilst further back it looks as though Lewis McGlade, Max Tad, Toby Davis and Mike Bell are all closing up, and it looks as though McGlade and Davis have gotten past Tad as Tad covers the sausage curb. How he survived that, I don't know, but a very good job. But he has lost places now. It looks as though the BMW may have used up those option tyres already. He's got a long race ahead of him.
I think, Scott Mitchell was saying that it was about 10%. I think those BMWs are going to be off the cliff very, very shortly. We're not even at half race distance yet, as Kieran Shanks, despite having 60 kilos of ballast on that Subaru, is absolutely flying. That car has been unassailable. As soon as you get some weight in it, 60 kilos, that's quite a significant amount of weight, and it can just deal with it really, really well. As a little bit of a tag on the back bumper of Richards, thanks to Kieran Shanks, and that now allows the number 4 from Sancho Simsport really trying to get stuck in there. And Shanks again, he's won multiple races at multiple circuits through, since debuting at round 2, and it looks to be the case that Shanks could also factor in again for a second race victory. But I hope that both focuses, I mean, this is the numbers game again, because you got a triple decker sandwich with a Scooby-Doo in the middle of it all.
You couldn't help yourself, could you? You had to put it in there.
Well, I could say it's a triple decker focus Scooby-Doo sandwich there, and really add a bit more add another log on the fire, so to speak.
Okay, I'll chuck another log on. I was going with the Ford Focus freight train with the Scooby option, but still, we'll see how we go with that. In the meantime, Toby Davis is absolutely hassling Max Tad as they head down towards Brundles, and I think Davis was ahead previously, so Tad somehow managed to get past him earlier in the lap.
Davis is on the options. On the options, so it seems to be a bit kinder to the front-wheel drive machinery. Is out through the bomb hole. On the back bumper of Shanks is Dan
tighter line from Shanks as well.
That was pretty good there. So Dan
contact into Murray's.
Oh, and oh my goodness me, Dan Kell trying to go up to his 3 abreast going towards the start-finish line. It is a fast and furious drag race between the 3 of them. And I think Dan Kell's going to be the one that comes out of this better than anybody, because effectively, as Kieran Shanks tries to go between the middle of them, and Dan Kell now takes the lead, runs a little bit wide, tighter line from Shanks, up the inside of Richards, who's trying to go up the inside of Kell, going into Richards and into Montreal. Oh my goodness me. It is the 1-2 Ford Focus freight train. Maybe it's the Ford Transit edition at the front of the field.
There we go. It's the Ford Transit special that we've been looking forward to, that we know Mike loves so much, the Ford Transit special. What I am wondering is, Kieran Shanks is probably going to...
short wheelbase.
Short wheel space. Thank you, Mike.
Kieran Shanks goes deep into the brakes. And tags with Richards. And that is going oh my goodness me, Shanks is not done yet. No. And that was coming through Agostini's as they run into the right and to the left at Hamilton's, and then into the right at Oggie's. As up the inside, a lock up again from Shanks, and he literally shuts the door quite firmly, allowing no way possible for Matt Richards to get past. As they now go through into Williams onto the Bentley straight. But Kieran Shanks, I mean, there's Rubbings Racing. There can be sometimes a bit too much robustness, can't there, Phil?
They can, and in this case, I'd love to see the front of the Subaru by the time he's finished the race, because a lot of contact there, as we can see Lewis McGlade now coming up against Mike Bell. So the numbers game, the Ford Focus of McGlade making his way around the outside at Brundles and into Nelson. A very good move, but Bell is coming back. McGlade's gone wide, so it's on as even as they were beforehand. In the meantime, you can see that Matt Richards is really hassling Kieran Shanks now. The Subaru, in fact, Richards has gone off at Murray's.
And that's allowed Chris Butcher. Butcher has been absolutely flying in that Vauxhall Astra, and he's not giving up, and he's going round the outside. Oh, wow. That's a brave move from Chris Butcher, round the outside of Kieran Shanks for P2 before we'd even got to Richards. That's a stonker.
Big commitment through Richards as well. You could see they both were nose in heavy in, as just fully committed as they went into Richards. And coming out of Wilson's, he's just ahead of Shanks. He's just about keeping that gap. So I'm wondering if Shanks is playing the waiting game again. We might see a few more nudges possibly come this way, as we saw with the 2 Focuses as it was before. So, but brilliant work by Butcher. He's taken complete advantage of the squabbling that Shanks and Richards had between them. In the meanwhile, Dan Kell, he's up to a 3-second lead. He's doing what Scott Mitchell did in the first race to begin with. Whilst the other squabble behind, he's building that gap and making sure he can control it.
Well, I think look at it from this way. Dan Kell is on the option tyre. Apparently, he's on the option tyre. So he's actually made it work a little bit longer, because in some respects, I saw a bit of a strategic ploy there, if I'm honest, through the driving style of Dan Kell, because he was waiting. He was not pushing hard. He was not going all guns blazing. He was making the option tyre come to him. And that's where, you see it very, in certain ways. You'll have some drivers that go for it. They will not relent, and they will go for it 100%. But then you have the drivers that decide to play the smart game and decide to go, well, I'm in third. The 2 in front are squabbling. They're bringing me with them. I've got an opportunity. And we saw just how quickly Dan Kell got past Shanks and Richards. And both of them are now starting to drop a little bit further back, as now Shanks trying to close on Chris Butcher. So it is Sancho Simsport leading the way ahead of Smile Power Racing. That's Frammy Autosport. And then just behind that is Sam Fowler from SRR. The number 27 is just being passed by Matt Richards. So Richards back up to 4th position. Richards currently on the prime tyre, as Kieran Shanks gets ever so deep into the braking zone through Montreal on Butcher. But Butcher still keeping ahead, as they'll now head through into the left at Palmer. And sideways goes Shanks yet again. I mean, that car, we all know that a Subaru Levorg production model is normally 4-wheel drive. Normally 4-wheel drive. But the way that Shanks is wrestling with that thing, it's like he's gotten on the ball and held on with both hands on the horns. As here now, Davis trying to go up the inside of Mike Bell. That's a great move if he can get through for 7th position. He makes the move. Nice work, Toby Davis. And now, just up ahead, he's got the last of the Sancho Simsport Ford Focuses in his eye line. As Ben Willis goes wide, going through Hamilton's and on the approach into Oggies, and that allows Tom Edmonds in the Frammy Order Sport number 15 Subaru get up close and personal. So that's a double-decker Scooby-Doo sandwich there with a bit of a BMW salad just behind.
I was preferring the Vauxhall Special, Vauxhall Extra Special in front.
Yeah, I don't know how we're getting into food, Mr. Broadcast Director. I think it's just the fact that I had my dinner before I started my evening's commentary, and that was well over 3 hours ago.
He's been influenced.
Yes, yeah, well, that's all your fault, Kinch.
Of course.
You came up with it first. But Mike Bell now trying to keep pace with Toby Davis. And Davis at the moment, I'm just looking at these drivers. So Lewis McGlade, currently, I'm just looking at the tyre choices that they've had for this one. Lewis McGlade used the option, so he's on the primes at the moment. Oh, bit of a sideways moment there. I think that was for Max Tad.
It was,
coming out of Murray's, and on the back bumper of Toby Davis, here comes Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing. One Astra against the other, and still Toby Davis managing to keep in front at the moment for 7th position. But you can just see how hard Mike Bell is pushing, and Bell is leaving his option tyres until the last 12-lap race here at Snetterton.
I mean, again, all praise to the performance of Lewis McGlade. He's made his way up to 6th position here. As we have a look at the replay, so yeah, this is the Max Tad. He's gone wide coming out of Murray's, caught the curb on the outside, and it's allowed Tom Edmonds to come past. A little bit of contact as he's come back, slightly sideways.
I don't think there was contact. I think Max Tad, he was just a passenger in that all on his own. So Tom Edmonds was. Tom Edmonds, I know through senior Rotax circles, he's won one race this season in VMO. He will have the foresight to actually keep a little bit more distance. As again, still Toby Davis being swarmed all over the back bumper by the number 5 of Mike Bell for 7th position. But Lewis McGlade is starting to pull away. He's got a gap of about 1.3 seconds between the two warring behind him as they go under the bridge into Brundle, through into the right at Nelson. Then into the right of the bomb hole before Coram, and then the left-hander at Murray's, which will put them onto the start-finish straight. Looks like we're now on to lap number 9 of this race out of 12. And the fastest lap of the race, funny enough, it's not a rear-wheel drive car, Phil. It's the number 89 Sancho Simsport that is leading the way of Dan Kell with a 1 minute 50.929, and he's now gone on to lap number 10. He's just put in a 51.8. Chris Butcher's just put in a 1 minute 51.5, and the gap now down to 1.5 seconds for the lead of the race. So Dan Kell has made these option tyres last so long, but Chris Butcher, I think, has just been working them, not pushing them too hard, and making these opportunities when he's able to, whilst the iron strikes hot. So he can then get closer and closer. But Dan Kell looks to be that little bit quicker in sector 1 at the moment. 31.278 for the 89, and then for the 65, it's a 31.368.
He is pushing. I mean, we are 2 laps left from the end of the race, so if Butcher can close that gap down, it is yo-yoing a bit. We're around about 1.6 seconds gap from Butcher to Kell in the lead, although again it's yo-yoing, so he's almost just a second. So tyre life and tyre degradation is playing its part once again. As we can see here, once more, Toby Davis running in 7th place. He's not made ground to Lewis McGlade. He's stayed behind him, a lot of that being the fighting he's had with Mike Bell. And at the same token, until sort of just now coming out of Williams onto the Bentley straight, it's only just allowed the likes of Ben Willis and Tom Edmonds in the 2 Subarus to close up on the Vauxhall once more. So tyre life playing its part in strategy as we come towards the end of the race, and as we know from what Scott Mitchell said in race 1, having that last 10% of the tyre and just managing what you have. So all kudos to those that have managed to make it work so far. Unfortunately, we see Max Tad fall down the order. He's running down in 11th place at the moment, so the option tyre has not worked that well for the BMW. In the meantime, as I was saying up front, as once again Tad goes very wide coming out of Murray's once more, so I would almost say the tyre life on that BMW has almost gone. It's now a case of just managing what he's got left from the last couple of laps.
We've had 3 retirements. We've had a disqualification for Costas Avram. Jack Nichols obviously rolling earlier on DNF'd on the very first lap. Max Spooner was out on lap number 2. So we are down to 20 drivers, and we now have a 2-second lead between first and second position. As last time around, Dan Kelpin in 151. Oh, Toby Davis
way wide.
Oh my goodness, that's going to be very, very lucky. He manages to get back behind. That was only 1 place lost as a result of that. So obviously those tyres went completely off the cliff. And Toby Davis, I mean, he's been in the trenches quite a lot. I mean, obviously a little bit earlier on this. Oh, Tom Edmonds goes completely sideways through Hamilton and into Oggies.
Very wide. Ben Willis coming after Toby Davis.
Yeah, but they're also on the option tyres. So, oh no, little bit of a touch between Willis and Davis, and did Davis get away with that one? He did. He caught that one. Oh, but Max Tad goes rally crossing. Sorry, Max Tad, you're not in Hurliers in Sweden, I'm afraid. You're at Snetterton, mate. As now Edmonds losing out possibly to Millward in the process, and Millward tries to get ahead and doesn't before Brundle, but Max Tad, trying to force it up the... Well, he was late braking there. I think he just realised, oh no, I've got to put the anchors on. And then he went barrel rolling into the side of Willis there, going through in some Brundles. Oh my goodness me, these option tyres are really, really throwing the cat amongst the pigeons around the field, isn't it?
It is really a case of if you can take them now. Tad's very wide through Coram and into Murray's again, but he's managed to keep all the grey stuff this time out of Murray's. It's left him open to attack from Edmonds with Millward in close company. It's almost as if the option tyre was something you should have gotten out of the way in race 1. Get the penalty out of the way first, do what you can with it, and then work with the prime tyre where feasible. So I feel for those already that are coming up in race 3 that have got the option tyre left to use. It's great to begin with as we see Millward running wide out of Riches. Edwards given a nudge to Tad, and that's given him the inside at Wilson's. Tad's managed to stay ahead as they head towards Palmer. But as I was saying, the option tyre, it's almost as if it's a disadvantage to get it out of the way as soon as you can. So race 3, whoever's using it for then, really need to be making a really big gap where they can and moving forwards. As we can see a lovely on board with Matt Richards in the Sancho Simsport Focus, with Sam Fowler very close behind, chasing him for 4th position. Very, very wide from Richards going through Oggies, and as they come onto the Bentley straight, Fowler is right with him. Now the BMW this time has worked better, as Kieran Shanks is closing also on Chris Butcher. This isn't done by any means. Shanks is seriously trying to see if he can improve on his podium position as he tries to brake on the inside at Nelson's. It's not worked though, and he's lost gap. He's lost that time to Butcher, who's I think almost lucked in earlier in the race into the 2nd place, but he's holding his own as he stays ahead of the Subaru.
Fowler looking to go up the inside of Richards literally on what's going to be, I think, effectively the final lap, because Kell has just been running away with it. He's been on the option tyre all race long. Dan Kell this time will take the checker flag and win race 2 here at Snetterton. Chris Butcher holds on for 2nd position ahead of Kieran Shanks. Look at this, Toby Davis. And also...
Ben Willis!
No, Ben.
That's not gone well at all.
That's not gone well for Ben Willis at all, as Toby Davis will cross the line in 8th position. That was definitely, when you're trying to go through the top 3 and then something like that happens,
Yep.
Ben Willis will finish all the way down in around 16th position. But Dan Kell wins the race ahead of Chris Butcher. Kieran Shanks takes P3. Matt Richards holds on to 4th from Sam Fowler. Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport makes it all 3 of them in the top 6 places. Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing will finish in 7th ahead of Toby Davis, who managed to hang on for 8th position. Max Tad in 9th. Tom Edmonds in 10th ahead of Phil Morby, Aidan Millward, Daniel Slattery, Scott Sovic, Scott Mitchell, who started from the pit lane, finished in 15th ahead of Ben Willis, who had that calamity on the last side of things, ahead of Sandro Ballesteros, Bradley Brockies, Graham Slattery, Daniel Hyde. Max Spooner has just responded to my direct message on Discord. He said, I went over the curb and barrel rolled. Snetterton is always my bogey circuit. Okay, thank you very much, Max. Jack Nichols, obviously, he kept on rolling. In that
Keep them wagons rolling.
Well, actually, I was thinking that I was waiting for someone to say the words Limp Biscuit when I said rolling, 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 rolling. You know?
I'm a slightly older generation. We'll work with that.
Hang on. No, you're not that much older than me. Come on. Be honest, Kinch. Come on, be honest. Costas Avram unfortunately DQ'd. But that was 20. That's now 24 laps of fantastic racing action here with drama, incidents and accidents. And I'm sure that our official, our chief steward, will have a lot of things to think about post every single race. But good to see that we had some great battles up and down the order. We will be getting underway with our third and final race here at Snetterton 300 for the sixth round of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship with me, Alex Goldschmidt, and my partner in crime, my bestest buddy, Mr. Phil Kinch, will be back in just a few moments as they're starting their warm-up ahead of race number 3 here at Snetterton.
To allow us to be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to be able to go through the chicane at the same speed as the able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now, if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers. That if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer. I tell him what I want and how I want it. He said it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in Al. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering. None of this would be possible without Al's British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team Brit is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Welcome back to the build-up for our third and final race here at Snetterton 300 with Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch on commentary duties. I think, in the words of Michael Caine in The Italian Job from the late 1960s, I think race 3 is going to blow the bloody doors off.
Yeah, I think it is. Nicely done, by the way. I like that. Good reference. Yeah, suitable, that one. Touring cars and blowing doors off.
It gets us away from talking about sandwiches and food, doesn't it?
It does, yes. Mm-hmm. We'll go back to fleets and Ford Transit specials and...
Sorry, what was that? I think I had my conscience calling. In a way, no. I just think that there's been a lot of banter between the competitors, and some saying that they've been running out of talent. saying, what was it? One driver went, well, if anyone's found some talent, I think I've lost mine, which is what you don't really normally hear from a racing driver.
No,
but
no.
It was the saying that Alex Wurz made heard around the world back in 2017.
Yeah.
If anyone might remember that the WEC. But Alex is. I've had the opportunity of meeting Alex Wurz in person when his second eldest son Charlie was racing at the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals last year at Sarno, representing Austria. So really, really nice chat. But yeah, I think race 3 always decides to give us a little bit more issues, and there's actually quite an interesting reason why Scott Mitchell started from the pit lane. The system is RF2 crashed on him, so the system crashed. The software crashed. He was then put at the pit lane, and it's the second event where it's actually happened. So it's a real shame for Scott, but obviously we want to see how he gets on in this particular race. So just looking forward to seeing how we will have our grid assumed very, very shortly for race 3, the third and final race here at Snetterton. But it's just I just think it's going to be quite interesting who's going to get the jump on everybody else here, Phil.
It is. I mean, as I was saying in race 2, those that have got the option tyre to use in this race have a small advantage as it's worked out. The front-wheel drive cars seem to be a little bit easier on the option tyre than the rear-wheel drive cars. Example, Max Tadden, how many times he unfortunately ran out of talent at Murray's at the end of each lap.
But yeah, again, especially when he came out of Murray's, and unfortunately Ben Willis was the unwilling recipient.
Yes,
on the very last lap. But I'm looking at the drivers that have now got option tyres on them. They will be as follows: Mike Bell, Sam Fowler, Max Spooner, Bradley Brockies, Kieran Shanks. We'll have them for race 3. Oh, now that just says it all, doesn't it? Daniel and Graham Slattery from Rage Racing, and also Jack Nichols. They have all saved their option tyres for this final race of the evening.
So that's going to be interesting with Kieran Shanks on the option tyre, especially as he's managed to take the win in race 1 and also take a podium in race 3. So he's proving once again the Subaru even takes its weight rather well.
These false teeth definitely aren't working. Get them back in, Phil. Get them back in.
I've broken them after race 1. That's what it is. They weren't prepared.
They were broken before race 1. Come on, man. Get it together.
I know. I managed to get Sancho Sim Sports said about 3 or 4 times before they broke. So I maybe need a more robust pair. No, it was definitely Sancho Sim Sport. I promise. In the meantime, we're looking. So Mike's having hearing issues in the background. Unfortunately,
I don't know. Broadcast director, is Phil's mic faulty, or is it just the false teeth causing the problem?
God, 4 weeks away and the banter's still flying. I've missed you guys. I really have.
It's like it's never been 4 weeks. It's like it's been true. 2 weeks since the last round. But at least in 2 weeks' time, we get to come back again.
Exactly. Well, they'll let you back. I'm not sure if Mike will let me back. We'll see about the false teeth.
Hey, well, at least it gives our broadcast director a laugh. So life,
a life and a laugh. We're doing well this evening.
The thing is that Mike Yao does a fantastic job, and every single project that I've been working with him since lockdown started has been an absolute hoot, and he does a fantastic job. So please, if you get a chance to go to Simply Race, you will meet the man in person when he's there. And he does a fantastic job. So a big thank you to Mike personally from myself and obviously everyone from VMO.
Yep. I might even have to pay a visit myself. I've been meaning to do that for a while.
Hang on a second. I live at Phil.
Now that I've been told that I should be making, to be honest, I don't know if he's listening, but my younger stepson, his best friend has just organised a car, and they're both planning many fun and frolics. And I'm thinking about the fact of just saying to them, look, let's just all pack up in the car, go to Milton Keynes. I'll introduce you to this guy called Mike who has to part with me once a fortnight. unfortunately, and see what fun and frolics they can get up to on the simulators. I'm thinking about this. It could be a regret, but we'll see.
No. I've got one thing to say to you, Phil. You've got to come down for the start of the Simply Race British Championships next Sunday.
Oh, let's see.
We're racing Clios. We've got touring cars. We've even got the USSC as well, starting off in the afternoon. And I'm commentating, buddy.
Well, that means you obviously need me with you, don't you? How can you commentate without me?
Oh dear! It's like he's pining for attention at the moment. I don't know. No,
I'm sure we've got a race to go, haven't we?
Yeah, we have got a race to go, Mr. Kinch. Thank you for reminding me of that trivial nonchalance there, my friend. But yeah, right. Well, it looks like we are all lining up on the grid, ready to go for the third and final race. We will be speaking to the top three at the end of this race, only from race 3. Due to the time constraints that we do normally have. I mean, everyone does want to get some shut-eye afterwards. Myself and Phil and Mike all notwithstanding, because we've been staring at screens for pretty much most of the day. But the formation lap for the third and final race gets underway with Phil Morby leading them away off of the start-finish line, as Morby and Edmonds will line up on row 1. Max Tad and Toby Davis, that is row number 2. Then head to row 3 with Mike Bell from the number 5 of Smile Power Racing and the number 78 of Sancho Simsports Lewis McGlade. Sam Fowler from SRR Motorsport and Matt Richards, also from Sancho Simsport, round out the top 4 rows. Kieran Shanks and Chris Butcher complete the top 10 in the number 16 and 65. Then it's the 89 of Dan Kell from Sancho Simsport and the number 67 of Option 13 Simsports Aidan Millward. Daniel Slattery and Scott Sovic complete row number 7. Ahead of Scott Mitchell and Ben Willis, that is row number 8. Then we go to row 9, which will be Sandro Ballesteros and Bradley Brockies, both from E-Team Brit. They'll round out row 9, ahead of Graham Slattery and Daniel Hyde, who rounds out the top 20 on the grid. And rounding out the 23 strong, it is Max Spooner, Jack Nichols and Kostas Avram. 23 drivers set to go into battle for one final time for 12 laps around the 2.969 mile, 4.779 kilometre circuit. 12 turns in all, and with such prestigious history, and also VMO making sure that its mark, indelible virtual mark, gets put on the circuit at just past the halfway break after the 4-week summer break. And it's been a fantastic return to racing, wouldn't you agree, Phil?
Oh yes, definitely. 2 great races we've had so far this evening. Really looking forward to the last one. I'll be honest, I'm going to put it out there. I'm hoping for something good from Toby Davis. He's in an ideal position in 4th on the grid. I've possibly just cursed him now. But he really deserves to have a better time of things after the last couple of rounds, and did pretty well in the first few races here to defend and make up positions. So really hoping that Toby can move forward, see if he can get himself a podium position to finish off the evening. However, we have got a Scooby-Doo 1-2 at the front of this race with Warby and Edmonds, and then Max Tad. See again, the Max Tad headlight freight train is ready to go from 3rd on the grid. So now he's not on the option tyre, we can see a more improved performance from him this time.
I think it's just the I'm gonna just muck about with the people in front and see how many people I can distract with these bleeding headlights.
Seemed to work.
Well, the thing is that we know that as soon as the lights are there, Max Tad suddenly appears.
And they're on already. You can see him as he's lining up the grid. The lights are on.
It's not the main beam, it's the bleeding high beam he's got on, and the flame shooting out the left-hand side of that BMW 125 IM Sport. Oh my goodness me, it's the psych job. That's what they call it.
It is.
As now, Toby Davis will look to point his car towards the inside line, as now we are getting ourselves steeled and ready for the third and final race here at Snetterton 300 for the conclusion of the 6th round of the VMO Touring Car UK Championship here in Norfolk. Wait for it as we are lights out and off and away. Great start from Phil Morby. Tom Edmonds looks to be jumped on and pounced past by Max Tad. The headlight show definitely quickly working its magic as they head into Riches for the very first time, and Max Tad still powers it round the outside. Yellow in sector 1 as Toby Davis all over the back bumper of Tom Edmonds as they go into Montreal. First lap, and Davis trying to park it around the outside, and you can then see a melee of Sancho Simsport cars just behind looks to be the number 5 of Mike Bell from Smile Power Racing as they're coming through into the infield part here at Snetterton. But what a great start by Phil Morby. But let alone saying that, Max Tad got an absolutely brilliant start, getting past Tom Edmonds, going through Richards for the first time.
He did. Max Tad did really well to get off there. Davis has a little bit of contact with Mike Bell behind, just renewing that rivalry they had in race 2. In fact, Morby's gone wide, Edmonds has gone wide as they come through to Oggies. That's allowed Max Tad to close up on Morby. And as they head towards Williams and towards the Bentley straight, the BMW...
I saw... now, that was Edmonds. Edmonds was off into the barriers, big time. Absolutely big time. That has changed the complexity of the race, as now Morby is being pressurised by Tad for the lead. And you can just see the stream of cars. Toby Davis all the way down to 9th place. Yeah. I think that car's got damage. Where is... I'm just wondering where... In
fact, Edmonds is back on the track. He's fighting with Davis, I think.
No, that's Shanks. Sorry, that's Kieran Shanks and Scott Mitchell getting stuck in here as he's trying to go up the inside of Chris Butcher. Oh, tags the Astra from behind. And this is all kicking off as Aidan Millward runs wide going through the entrance into Coram. Jack Nichols is up to 16th position already. And we're not even round the completion of lap number 1. And it is all kicking off. Morby being chased down by Tad, who is closing quickly and is in the slipstream of the Subaru. Mike Bell battling away with Matt Richards for 3rd place, going down across the start-finish line as we head into lap 2. Into Richards, down into the draft, down to Montreal comes Max Tad. He is absolutely like a little rocket ship as that BMW trying to go towards Montreal. Gets the cut back through on Morby. This time around, no dice for the number 35 from SRR Motorsport as Morby trying to put on a defensive tactic to keep the BMW at bay. And at the moment, Max Tad is currently on the prime tyre. Phil Morby also currently on the prime tyre. And they are starting to pull away from Mike Bell in 3rd position, who's now ahead of Matt Richards.
Indeed, I mean, as they come through Agostini and work their way through the midfield, these two are starting to break away from Mike Bell, who's got Matt Richards for company. But again, behind, we've got the Ford Freight Train, the long wheelbase version this time, all 3 of them in a row, with McGlade and Kell following along. It's, you know, they're sticking together, but these guys are holding place up front as we see. In fact, here we go. The incident, I think, with Edmonds.
No, he just loses it. He loses it coming out of the corner. The car then bumps over the gravel. He's going to come onto the racing line.
I think I can see how this is going to end, and it's not pretty.
Oh, well, the thing is
contact there between Edmonds and Davis.
And Bell was on the outside of it, so there might have been a little bit of contact from through all 3 parties. So... effectively, Max Tad down. He was running in 2nd position.
He was running in 2nd place, chasing.
He was closing on Morby, so there's been drama for our 2nd place driver. Is now Mike Bell is the one that's closing on Phil Morby, and Mike Bell, ladies and gentlemen, is the only one out of the top 4 that is on the option tyre. And look at the squabble behind. You can, oh my goodness me, Scott Mitchell now up into 9th place, having started down in around 15th position, as Richards threading the eye of the needle, going up into the inside, through into Richards and sweeps up the inside.
Move.
That was a brilliant move on Mike Bell for 2nd position, and McGlade not too far behind. Shanks up to 5th. Fowler following behind as Bell tries to go up the inside of Richards yet again and through into Montreal. And it's nearly 3 abreast. Oh my goodness me, who's going to come out on top on this one? And up the inside comes Matt Richards. Oh my goodness, and McGlade trying to go through. Oh, and both Richards and Bell get compromised. And here comes Kieran Shanks running at an he's running that meter well and truly high, and he's gone between the pair of them. Oh my goodness me! And he loses
hard on the brakes into Agostini,
and he gets tagged and turned
around. He's
by
gone
Richards. Oh, well, would you believe that?
This is race 3, folks, and this is what normally happens.
Okay, right. Here is the replay. Let's try and calm this down. This is what happens to Max Tad. He goes up the inside through into Brundle. They go into Nelson's. Morby's got the inside run, hits the sausage curb, and that just literally pushes Tad wide and sideways. And he's nothing but a passenger, and everyone starts filtering their
held out to dry.
And we've had 2 retirements. No surprise, Tom Edmonds out with major damage, and Graham Slattery also retiring in the process too. Oh my goodness me! What a mushroom cloud. Oh no! There's the Small Power Racing driver around the other way. That is Chris Butcher. Oh my goodness! That was coming through. Brundles and Nelsons.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me. Right, okay. Here's what happens to Tom Edmonds. I think this is from earlier. Comes under the bridge, goes into the left at into
Kieran
Brundles.
Shanks.
Oh, Shanks. And
Very
Shanks
wide,
goes,
and he's taking the sausage curb, but in the background you've got Ben Willis
and Butcher.
So
they've
already off,
collided going
and then
in.
Shanks is off as well.
Option tyres not definitely helping anybody, but at the moment Phil Morby is leading, and at the moment Lewis McGlade is in second, Sam Fowler third, Mike Bell in fourth, Matt Richards fifth, and then I've not seen this before. Look who's up in sixth position. Daniel Slattery from Rage Racing in the MG, the number 24 up to sixth. Then it's Dan Kell, Toby Davis in eighth, Scott Mitchell up to ninth place now, ahead of Scott Sovic. And I'm just keeping an eye on other drivers. Jack Nichols is one position away from the top 10.
That's a good recovery, especially after his race to the retirement.
Well, he was rolling in both first and second races. Let's not forget here, Phil. And the second one was a bit more pronounced than the first, let's say.
Definitely. So it seems to have, dare he say it, touch on wood, it seems to have quietened down.
Well, we're going to get a replay now. As now, this is right. This was what sent Butcher spinning.
Right.
Mitchell trying to go through the inside, and I think there was the slightest amount of contact. And Butcher gets spun around and then goes backwards over the sausage curb.
He's going to come back across the track.
That would have collected Ben Willis as a direct result, and it has. And Jack Nichols goes through, and
one of the Team E Brit cars. E-Team Brit cars, again, catching the sausage curbs. It's great to be able to use the curbs as part of the racing line to go as fast as you can, but those sausage curbs will catch you out, as unfortunately Jack Nichols has found out twice today, and now several of the drivers in race 3. So it's great to be able to use them, the slightest contact you can get away with, but if you push it too hard, you will lose out, and Snetterton is biting back in this last race today.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we'll look at Max Spooner. He's up into 13th position, so it would have either been Bradley Brockies or Sandro Ballesteros would have caught those sausage curves, as Mike Bell battling away with Matt Richards now, and that is for 5th place. Now Bell up the inside of Richards, through into Montreal. Richards tries to take as much curb as he can through on that particular corner, but that particular time he can't get through, as now Toby Davis being caught by Scott Mitchell in the 22. Looks like the Mercedes is a lot better suited to the prime tyres, which both Scott Mitchell and also teammate Jack Nichols are running at the moment. So, well, actually, I'm just going to double check the listings, because I have to keep on doing that on a regular basis, because I've got the option tyres along with the live timing on the left-hand side of my position, and Jack Nichols is actually on the option tyre. So that's why Jack Nichols has been able to push
hard and make his way back up the field.
Well, up to 11th, and then obviously the tyres will now start to struggle a little bit. So he will start to experience what Scott Mitchell experienced in race number 1, but nevertheless, still a 3rd place position for, and effectively a maiden podium for King's Racing. As now Matt Richards being closed in on, dare I say it, by Daniel Slattery, and then just behind is the 3rd of the Sancho Simsport cars, the 89 of Dan Kell in 7th position, and then Toby Davis and Scott Mitchell are quickly closing, as Ben Willis is having a brilliant battle now. This is with Max Spooner from E-Team Brit, the E-Team Brit boss, who's also been running in the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge under the Team Texaco banner, running in the Aston Martin. So plenty of work that has been done in the past few months for E-Team Brit. And Scott Mitchell now coming under fire from Scott Sovic. So it's the battle of the Scots up into Riches, and Mitchell gets through as there's a brief yellow in sector number 3. So good dicing there between Sovic and Mitchell, as now Sovic trying to go past, as there's one of the E-Team Brit cars off, and Kieran Shanks off again, and the E-Team Brit car. Shanks just sent it up the inside of Bradley Brockies and launched it off the sausage curves. I mean, come on. I mean, that was just a bit too much there, really, if I'm honest. And that's from a not from a commentator perspective, but from a personal perspective. I mean, that kind of move really was a bit too. I've seen some robust moves in my time, but just seeing stuff like that where someone tries to launch it and it just really doesn't help, that was a move that I think that the race stewards will not look favourably upon.
If you're able to make the pass, make the pass. If you can do it cleanly
now,
or
Lewis
fairly.
McGlade is now leading. Lewis McGlade has got past Sam Fowler. In the meantime, I've just noticed it on the timing screens. Phil Morby down to third place. So Lewis McGlade looking to get a win here as we are now getting towards the halfway point of the race. And Lewis McGlade is on the prime tyre. Sam Fowler is on the option. Phil Morby is on the prime tyre.
So again, I wonder if we've got the same situation as we had with Max Tad in race 2. I wonder if Fowler is potentially starting to suffer with the tyre where we had with the option tyre. The fact that McGlade's got ahead and Morby's on the prime tyre, rear-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, so all is fair. But if Fowler's starting to struggle a little bit in the BMW, that's going to cause him some issues, as we see.
Yeah, McGlade just looks to, well...
He's got the better drive out of Murray's.
He has, and he goes towards the outside, and there's a little bit of rubbing between the pair of them. Now going down into Riches, and McGlade is going to sweep round the outside. That's a brilliant manoeuvre there.
Impressive, very impressive stuff.
That's a great move by the number 78 Ford Focus. And then Fowler was able to just get round, I think, probably a couple of corners later as it's all kicking off behind Phil Morby. Well, Toby Davis is in 7th. Scott Mitchell is in 8th. It's Dan Kell that's gone backwards a little bit, as is Mike Bell. As Matt Richards now up into 4th place. Mike Bell goes up the inside again of Dan Kell, and Toby Davis and Scott Mitchell are starting to close. Mitchell's got past Scott Sovic. Jack Nichols is up into 10th place now, so 2 potential top 10 finishes on the cards for Kings Racing, as now Toby Davis just trying to keep it nice and clean ahead of Scott Mitchell, who's trying to fend off Scott Sovic. And there is Mike Bell. He is the Smile Power meat in a Sancho Simsport sandwich as they come through towards the far part of the circuit. And Mike Bell looking to get up the inside now of Matt Richards. And that's through into Williams, and he makes the move through.
That's a good move. It's difficult to pass through Williams as a corner onto the Bentley straight.
Look, Dan Kell trying to get ahead of teammate Richards here and looks to have done the job. As Sam Fowler closing back up again on Lewis McGlade, so he might have just saved a little bit of reserve on those option tyres and not overcooked them like Max Tad did a little bit earlier on. As Scott Mitchell now gets past Toby Davis, and then they swap positions back again. Toby Davis has rolled! Toby Davis has rolled in the final race, and I think that is it. For the number 34, that's it. I think that was on the same corner where Jack Nichols had his rollover in race 1 earlier on.
Yeah. He's catching the sausage curb by coming out of Nelson's and running through towards the bomb hole. Unfortunately, and that's ended his race after a difficult start from the looks of things. Sam Fowler staying with Lewis McGlade. Lewis McGlade having done really well to work his way to the front. Let's have a look
at the replay. Yeah, you're right. He's
heading for the sausage curb, and that's it.
Scott Mitchell has kept out of the way. More importantly,
yes.
Scott Mitchell did not have anything to do with that. And I think there was a Smile Power racing car almost going 2 wheels up
as well.
And that was, I think, Chris Butcher, maybe.
Yes, it was.
So Toby Davis's race, I think, is done and dusted, unfortunately. So both Kings Racing drivers were. Yeah, that was Scott Sovic. So Sovic got passed by Nichols in the melee.
So Mitchell and Nichols running 7th and 8th in race 3. So good work by the pair of them, making their way back up through the field in the last race of the day. As Fowler hounds McGlade, and it looks as though, yes, Richards hounding Mike Bell, almost pushing him through Oggies from the looks of it as they're coming up towards Williams and heading to the Bentley straight, whilst Fowler is almost pushing McGlade down the Bentley straight as they head towards Brundle and Nelson. So everyone really trying to get, I think, the best option they can at the moment, pushing the tyres whilst they're in that window before they start degrading and losing out on the grip and the tyre life they've managed to hold on to so far. But at the moment, that BMW is
getting close
going
through Brundle. Sorry, Phil, to cut across you there, but it is all for themselves. And it looks like that we've got Matt Richards leading a multiple car train, which is being rounded off by Jack Nichols. And that has got Richards, Bell, Kell, Mitchell and Nichols all involved. That is 5 cars battling over 4th position as the 2 leaders, line astern, about 0.2 of a second adrift, make that less than 0.2 of a second. Not even a car length between McGlade and Fowler as they head down towards Richards. And it looks like pretty much that Fowler's just waiting for his opportunity. Comes and he actually did a really good job there as Dan Kell coming under pressure from Scott Mitchell. as they head down in towards the far part of the circuit, and there was a little bit of a lock up there. All the two leaders nearly tangling coming out of Montreal and heading into the next corner. Oh my goodness me, through into Palmer as they go side by side, and Fowler barges his way past
stuff.
as Jack Nichols gets past Scott Sovic for 7th position for the briefest instant, and through into Hamilton they go, and Fowler gets up the inside of McGlade and gets sideways whilst doing so, but still keeps the lead. Nice job there by SRR Motorsports. Sam Fowler in the 27. Oh, goes sideways, and so does McGlade. They both go rally crossing. Oh my goodness me. This is... Oh.
And he's gone wide again, coming out of Oggies again. That's given McGlade the chance to come up on the inside as they run up to Williams. And...
Oh, that's close. That's close. Oh my goodness me! Coming out of there as now also Scott Sovic has lost a position to Jack Nichols, and also Slattery going up the inside of Jack Nichols for a change, up into 7th position as Scott Mitchell now has a bit of daylight, and he's got about 1 second between himself and Matt Richards. So Scott Mitchell took 3rd in race 1 and couldn't make it up significantly up the order to get towards the top 5 positions, but he is literally about 0.8 of a second away. And I'm just looking at his lap times in comparison with Matt Richards. Oh my goodness me, he was almost 0.7 of a second quicker than Dan Kell on that last lap, as Richards has got past Kell for position, as Fowler now fending off McGlade, as they now go down onto lap number 10 of the race. Here into the right-hander at Richards. Fowler still hanging on. Oh, drifts a little bit sideways, but gets back onto the racing line. Heading down towards Montreal. McGlade going one way, then the other. Still not being able to find his way past the BMW at the moment, as we've had 3 retirements. Shanks, Graham Slattery and Tom Edmonds. So both Frammy Autosport cars out of the final race here at Snetterton. But through Palmer's, again, Fowler just literally running that car completely sideways, a la Tokyo Drift, going through the corner through Palmer's and then into the left at Agostini's. Again, you can just see he's wrestling with those tyres. That car is cornering like it's on rails at the moment.
It is. The Focus is the better car of the two, and obviously with McGlade being on the prime tyre, Fowler being on the option tyre, Fowler's having to work a little bit harder, and it's more and more obvious as he's having to drive the car out the corners, trying to straighten off the corner where he can to keep that advantage ahead. With 2 laps to go, and at the moment it's starting to look as though Fowler, whilst he's got in front, he's going to have a hard time staying in front of McGlade, who, as we said, he's just worked his way from the back of the field through the 2 races so far, and is fighting for the lead in race 3.
Yeah, but as they say, nothing's over until the checkered flag is waved, and that is very much the case right about now. So we still have a great battle, I think, in prospect between these 2 leaders. I mean, McGlade has not really kept Fowler out of his sight by any stretch of the imagination as they're going through. As, again, the sausage curb's nearly causing a potential problem, but luckily enough, Sam Fowler manages to keep that. But in the meantime, look at how close Scott Mitchell has got to Dan Kell. The run for 5th position, a second top 5 finish for Scott Mitchell, formerly based in the UK, but now based out of Sweden. He now goes towards the outside of Dan Kell, heading into Riches. Oh my goodness me, the Mercedes round to the outside. Can Scott Mitchell keep it planted? It's close, but not close enough. They're going to head down towards Montreal. Scott Mitchell still to the outside of the Sancho SimSport Ford Focus. Still keeping it planted. Powers out of the corner. Can't get the run done, but that was a brave attempt from Scott Mitchell there, Phil.
It was, yeah. Riches is one of the most difficult corners to pass on the inside, let alone doing it on the outside. If you can do it on the outside, that's impressive stuff. But Mitchell is harrying Dan Kell in the Ford Focus, and it's good to see that he's on the offensive and pushing his way forward again. In the meantime, we've got Dean Slattery, Jack Nichols, Scott Sovic and Aidan Millward now closing up for the fight on 7th position between these 4 cars, and it's good to see Daniel Slattery further up. I know his dad Graham's made his debut this evening, and he took a race finish in race 2, and I know he's retired from race 3, but he's done really well on his first evening to be involved with such a competitive championship. These guys really push the envelope in race conditions, and they know how to push hard. So yeah, great stuff to see from Daniel as Millwall closes on Sovic, whilst Nichols is closing back on Slattery. In fact, they're both looking to go through on the inside of Brundles.
Oh, that's close. There's a little tag, and Millward
and
goes
Millward's
spinning,
gone round.
and then Sovic goes off the track as well. Yellow in sector 3 as a result of that contact between the pair. But still, Jack Nichols closing on Dean Slattery, and here is the battle a little bit further down the order. Chris Butcher, which you have thought would have been battling away in 16th position. He's ahead of Sandro Ballesteros, as Max Tad trying to go up the inside of Max Spooner there. Butcher threads the eye of the needle, tries to go past both cars as they're going to go through into Coram, but manages. There's a little bit of a touch there between Spooner and Butcher as Sandro Ballesteros looking to go up the inside of his team boss as Spooner nearly runs a little bit wide. I don't know if there was a little bit of nudging between the 2E Team Brit cars, but one of the things you don't do, the cardinal rule, is never take out your teammate, and that was really, really close. Okay, let's have a look at the replay. So this is Aidan Millward battling away with Scott Sovic. They're going down the Bentley Straight, heading towards the bridge, and then over to Brundles, and then into the right at Nelson's. And so Millward taps the left rear
and that's
quarter.
where it is.
That's what started him spinning out, and Sovic can't keep a hold of it, and Millward ran the other way. So it's
difficult stuff when they're pulling over onto each other, like Sovic's done as well. If you think you're ahead enough, you suddenly find the back quarter being tapped. It is really difficult to pull out of those spins, unfortunately.
So we are literally, I think, just a couple of moments away from getting this race over and done with. It's been quite action-packed through all 3 races here at Snetterton, but Sam Fowler from SRR Motorsport in the number 27 has kept Lewis McGlade at bay in the number 78 Sancho Simsport Ford Focus from around around the halfway point of this 12-lap race. As still they're battling away between them for the last couple of points on the table, as Max Tad battling away with Chris Butcher, who came into this race this race evening with a 23-point advantage in the lead of the standings. But let's see what happens. It looks like it's going to be a win for SRR Motorsport as Sam Fowler in the 27 takes the checkered flag by 0.33 of a second ahead of Lewis McGlade, as they're still battling between each other. Oh, 2 wheels off of the sausage curves for Max Spooner there, going through into Nelson's, then through into Coram, as this is the battle for 14th position. So Fowler takes the win ahead of McGlade. Phil Morby will round out the top 3, fractionally ahead of Matt Richards, with Dan Kelv holding off Scott Mitchell by 1.5 seconds to take the final part of the top 5 positions. As Tad gets a bit sideways, looks like there might have been a slightest amount of touching, I'm not too sure. But then Max Spooner trying to go around the outside of Chris Butcher to try and get the position. Oh, Toby Davis drops way down the order. And I'm not too sure what happened there for the 34, but he took the last position. So Slattery takes 8th behind Jack Nichols, as Scott Mitchell takes 6th. Let's have a look at this replay here. Now, this is Mike Bell. Oh, now that's Bell.
It's just gone straight on. Straight on at Murray's.
Absolutely straight on at Murray's, and that dropped him all the way down to 10th position. And as a result of that, Ben Willis nearly capitalised in the drag racing 85 Subaru Levorg. Oh, and the pair clashed going across the start-finish line. Oh. It was that close between them. Oh, my goodness me. So Sam Fowler takes the victory in the 3rd and final race here at round 6 of the 2020 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Snetterton 300. So Sam Fowler wins ahead of Lewis McGlade. Phil Morby rounds out the top 3 ahead of Matt Richards and Dan Kell, with all 3 of the Sancho Simsport Ford Focuses making it into the top 5. Kings Racing had a great finish to their evening, despite some dramas for Jack Nichols, who finished behind teammate Scott Mitchell, who took a podium in race number 1. Daniel Slattery provides the highest place this season for Rage Racing in 8th position, ahead of Scott Sovic and Mike Bell, who ran out the top 10 for Smile Power Racing. Ben Willis and Aidan Millward ran out the top 12, ahead of Max Tad from SRR Motorsport, Smile Power Racing, and also Smile Power Racing's Chris Butcher and Max Spooner from E-Team Brit, who gives the Dunsfold-based squad a point on the board yet again. Toby Davis would finish ahead of Sandro Ballesteros with Costas Avram, Aidan Millward, Daniel Hyde, and Bradley Brockes being the last of the 20 classified runners and riders, with DNFs from Kieran Shanks and Graham Slattery and Tom Edmonds, with the first and the last of those 3 receiving a significant amount of damage. I don't know about you, Phil, but after, I think that's now, I started at 6 o'clock this evening. That is now 4.25 hours. I am absolutely spent, but thoroughly enjoyed every single second this evening on these ones here. What do you say?
It has been, yeah. It's been a great race. It's been a great race evening. It's been great to be back after a 4-week break, and we haven't been disappointed. 3 great races, 3 different winners, and yeah, it's been a fantastic evening's worth.
Indeed. Right, I'm going to head down to the interview booth to hopefully speak to some of our top 3 this evening, and I'll be back with you in just a moment's time, Phil.
Okay.
Well, congratulations, Phil Morby. Podium. I know that you were definitely in the battle for the victory along with Lewis McGlade and Sam Fowler, but settling for 3rd isn't so bad after all for what's been a difficult season, isn't it?
No, it wasn't. No, it was really at the start I was just kind of like, okay, those guys behind me have got weight, let's see how far ahead I could get. Max tried a move on and put me on sausage curves and luckily held that. And then, I saw that there was a bit of traffic behind. I was like, okay, well, let's see how long I can kind of hold them all up, hold each other up, sorry. Lewis came through, and then I had Sam on the tail, and I thought, well, I'll fight him, but I know he's quicker, and he went through, and I was kind of watching him thinking, now, if they could just go off. But now I'm really pleased. Jokes aside, it was I needed that after the last couple of rounds. I had a bit appalling. So back facing the right direction is always a good thing.
That's always a good thing, especially in a rear-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah, needed a bit more water though, a bit more rain though, didn't we? Just a little bit more.
I had a feeling there might have been a bit of rain in the real life, but I was sort of thinking, well, as soon as I was told the track was greasy for race 1, I thought, we could see a myriad of drivers deciding to go either with wets, options, or primes. But well done this evening, Phil. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, fortune favours you a bit more as well, my friend.
I'll take that. Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot. So, right, I think, I don't know if we're going to be able to get a word with any of the remainder of the top 3. I did hear Max Tad come and go. I don't want to be interviewed, but, it looks like we've got the returning Scott Sovic from Smile Power Racing. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening.
Good to have you back. It was definitely elbows out there.
Yeah, especially race 3. That was a bit much for my taste personally, but even race 1 I felt race 1 race 2 had a good balance, but definitely elbows out in race 3, that's for sure.
It always seems to be the case because it's going to quite happen, but there were some interesting moves between yourself, Jack Nichols, Dean Slattery, Scott Mitchell throughout that race 3, and that just shows how close and compact touring car racing can truly be.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a close fight. I must admit, I'm not 100% pleased with how all of the driving was going on tonight, honestly, especially in that 3rd race. But it is, it's a form of motorsport still, and you're still going to have a lot of aggressive moves. And to be honest, I think it definitely added some action for the viewers. But it's I think definitely there are going to be penalties after this because
both myself and Phil are definitely in agreement with you on that one, Scott, because there was plenty of let me just put it this way, there was a few more altercations with sausage curves and paintwork than I think I've seen all season long.
Surprisingly easy to just get the wrong angle on the sausage curbs on this track and just suddenly you're on 2 wheels and you're doing a loop-to-loop. But honestly, it's what can I say? It was super aggressive with it. I think both on track and just lines generally. This round was super aggressive, and I think I think, to be honest, toning it down next round probably is for the best.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Well, Scott, thank you very much for talking to me. All the very best of luck. We had to. So now what I'm going to do is head back up to the commentary box to join good old Phil Kinch as we'll look to wrap up the stream at the conclusion of round 6 here at Snetterton. So Phil, very interesting comments from Scott Sovic there, if I'm completely honest. What are your thoughts on that? Because there was a lot of aggression in race 3, wasn't there? Hello, Phil. I don't know what's happened there, Phil. Can you hear me?
Oh, let's try that. How's that? There we go. Let's press the right button and start again before I start talking.
Did you do Control-Alt-Delete, mate?
Yep, Scott, it works well. I'm back. All is good. So now, as I was saying before, you couldn't hear me. I agree with Scott. Races 1 and 2 had some very good racing, some very clean racing. It went really well. Race 3, a lot more aggression, a lot more contact. I can see his point. I can see where he's coming from, and a lot more of the cars just trying to take that bit more of the sausage curb and losing out. That was quite obvious, especially in the Brundle Nelson bomb hole complex. Considering the amount of cars that either spun round, cars trying to pass each other and not fully pass, so making that contact and spinning each other around. A very busy race, and I'll be honest, I think it's one, as Scott said, the stewards are going to be looking at quite a few incidents and ruling on those.
Well, with that sort of bombshell here from Snetterton, join myself and Phil Kinch on the 1st of September. That's 2 weeks' time as we go to Croft for 3 races with 15 laps of action. And Phil, another great circuit at Croft in just a couple of weeks' time, wouldn't you agree?
It is very fast, very technical. Always good fun at Croft. If you can survive the first lap, at least you're on a winner. And especially the first few corners, especially with touring car action. And really looking forward to Croft. Really, it's one of the circuits I've visited myself and always enjoyed the racing. So yeah, looking forward to that in 2 weeks' time.
Well, on behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt and Phil Kinch, thank you for joining us for the 6th round of the 2020 VMO Touring Car UK Championship. See you in a couple of weeks' time at Croft on the 1st of September. So goodbye for now. Stay safe.